Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for all things giallo, here on The King in Giallo. Well, here we are, the final video of my first year for The King in Giallo. I planned on closing out the year with The Bird with the Crystal Plumage months back in its review in GialliTally. This review and GialliTally will contain spoilers throughout. If you haven't seen my overview for the film, go ahead and check that out for a spoiler-free rundown of the movie and its production, then come on back. We're gonna jump right into the review and GialliTally, so let's go. Here is The Bird with the Crystal Plumage review. Spoilers ahead for those of you who haven't yet seen the film. You've been warned. My prediction for the movie's GialliTally score. I am very familiar with this movie and have seen it numerous times. Not as many times as, say, Deep Red or The New York Ripper, but enough times to predict that the movie will rank in around 400 points. I'll say 400, 450. Well, let's begin the GialliTally and review portion of the video, beginning as always with the pre-viewing cliches. The repeat offenders are 1 point for actor, 3 for writer, 3 for composer, and 5 for director. Renato Romano was in Death Laid an Egg, 1 point. Ennio Morricone composed music for A Quiet Place in the Country, 3 points. I did not cover this movie in the Forgotten Giallo film series for 1968, but I may have to. The film is directed by Elio Petri and stars Franco Nero of Django and the Mercenary fame. Cliché points for the title, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. 5 points for an animal in the title, and another 5 points for the title following the lines of the blank with the blank. First look, we have 25 points for the Italian director, 15 points for this being in the golden age of giallo, 1970 to 1975, and an additional 15 points for the influence bonus of this being a quintessential giallo film. And would you look at that, it is plot o'clock. Anybody else freezing? Cause we have a cold open, 5 points. We open with an unknown figure, presumably our killer, typing up something. U is for undercover, extra for it being the killer, 10 points. G is for gloves, extra for them being black, 10 points. And Z is for zoom, 5 points. The contents of the note seem to be instructions on stalking a young woman. We'll see about that. The music sets in, and immediately we see a young woman being stalked. Okay, so the movie wasn't lying. F is for fashion. Remember, this one is practically a given, 5 points. Urban locales, 2 points. The sequence ends, and K is for knife, extra for the blade reflecting the light, 10 points. The killer, presumably, selects a knife, reviews the photographs, and heads out. We hear a woman scream. I can't read that. This is Carlo. He congratulates Sam on his newest writings on bird preservation, which was regarded by the experts. Sam seems discontent that he's no longer writing fiction. X is for xenophobia, extra points for the main character being a foreigner, 10 points. Okay, hold on. Before you think I am jumping the gun, I'll point it out again later in the film when there is a better example of xenophobia, but for now, we learn he is an American, so we'll add it now. Sam says things are going well with his new girlfriend, Julia, a model, whom he says will be coming back to the States with him. He goes on to say that a friend stateside had convinced him to travel to Italy for inspiration, and after touring the country, he is now broke and hasn't written anything substantial in 2 years. Exposition dumping, 2 points. Sam receives a check for his new bird manual and departs. While out for a stroll, he witnesses what appears to be an attempted murder through the glass at an art gallery. W is for witness. Spoiler, extra points for the witness being stalked afterwards, 10 points. And art, 5 points. A honking car throws Sam to the ground and prompts the disguised figure to flee the scene. Sam tries to get to the woman, but the door is locked. The figure then hits a security button and entraps Sam in the foyer. Y is for yelling, 5 points. The woman in distress seems to pass out. The police show up, and I love how Sam seems to direct them around, telling them what to do. Inspector Morosini arrives on scene to take command. The crime scene is locked down, and immediately they scrounge for fingerprints. Sam tells Morosini what he saw, then the woman, named Monica, is picked up by paramedics, just as her husband and the owner of the gallery rushes in. The man, Alberto Ranieri, tries to get through to his wife, but to no avail. Morosini begins questioning him about why his wife was here alone so late at night. Q is for questions, 5 points. Alberto says that she was here going over the books. A is for alibi, 5 points. Sam cannot say exactly how, but he feels there was something odd about the whole scene he witnessed. Morosini stops Sam from contaminating the crime scene, then contaminates the crime scene. He finds a glove with blood on it. Cut to Sam continuing to be interrogated. He repeats his story before telling them that he will be leaving for America shortly. Morosini asks to see his passport, but refuses to give it back, telling him that he doesn't want him to leave until he can recall whatever it is, which is so vital for them solving the case. This might be kind of a stretch, but he is kind of badgering him, and he is an American, so, xenophobia? Yeah, sure. I already gave the extra points for the main character being a foreigner. It's fine. He then explains that there are 3 unsolved murders in the city. Remember that for the Deadpool. Morosini explains how he believes the killer is sane of mind, then sort of accuses Sam of maybe being the killer, angering him in the process and leading to him threatening to call his consulate. Being in Rome, though, he is actually much closer to a US embassy and therefore an ambassador, but it's all the same, I suppose. Sam makes plans to cancel his trip and remain in the city for the foreseeable future. While walking home, Sam is followed by an unseen figure who attempts to kill him. Quickly, add extra points for Wise for Yelling for a hysterical woman yelling. Another 5 points. The killer flees, and Sam gives chase, but the killer has already gotten away in a car. Or else I would have added points for a proper foot chase. Don't worry, that'll be later. Sam arrives home. His girlfriend Julia surprises him inside. As they talk, I suddenly want a scotch, and I don't know why. J is for J&B, extra for it being drunk. 10 points. As he tells her about his day, they get a tad frisky. Necking, 5 points. And suddenly, Sam has several flashbacks to Monica. Cut to them presumably after sex, with a metronome going at a rather modest pace. Another flashback. I won't say who, but it seems like you can, especially in HD resolution, tell who the disguised figure is. One sequence shows Monica and the figure struggling with the knife. Heads up, these flashback cuts are all of the same moment, so when I tally them up in the end, I will only count these as one entire flashback. The next scene is a police lineup where Morosini brings in a bunch of convicted perverts for Sam to decipher if any of them look familiar. They do not, but we get this hilarious exchange.
Rubatelli Luigi, alias Ursula Andres.
No, Petrini.
Yes, Inspector?
What's this character doing here? How many times do I have to tell you Ursula Andres belongs with the transvestites, not the perverts?
Well, I should hope so.
The scene after this has forensics telling us that the blood found on the glove is Monica's. There was ash on the glove from Cuban cigars, and there were fibers from which they traced to being of English origin. Morosini now believes the killer is a man who dresses well, smokes cigars, and is left-handed. After some science mumbo-jumbo, they are told that there are over 100,000 potential suspects in the city. Morosini tells Sam that Monica was released from hospital and that he should visit her. When Sam goes to see her, her husband Albert says that she's not seeing anyone and is in bed under sedation, recouping. In the brief scene, Sam learns that Alberto dresses well, smokes cigarettes, and is left-handed. Cut to a horse race. Animals featured. Horses, 2 points. First-person POV, 5 points. A new woman is being stalked. Next scene, Sam and Julia are going over the murdered victims. The first one was a salesgirl at an antique shop found dead in a park. Second victim was a prostitute found dead under a bridge. Her pimp was suspected but later released. Third one was a student. Sam decides to begin his investigation at the antique shop. At the antique shop, Sam is hilariously badgered by the owner, who seems to have taken a strong liking to him. The man tells him that the girl who worked there was odd and that she liked women, but that doesn't bother him. Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't. Queer characters, gay man, 5 points. Sam looks like he's ready to fight off the thirsty shop owner. The owner tells him that the day of the murder, the only sale they made was near closing, was a painting, and the girl had made the sale. The man says that he has a copy of the painting in the form of a photograph and goes to show it to him. Sam asks to keep it. He hangs the photo up on the wall, which disturbs Julia. The scene transitions to the killer's room, where they too are admiring the painting. Add extra points to art for the painting being central to the plot. Another 5 points. The killer inspects the photos they took of the new girl at the horse race. Cut to that girl walking and being stalked. The killer follows her home and watches as she goes in and upstairs. As she gets ready for bed, the killer takes out a set of tools or keys. Either way, they're getting inside. As she smokes a cigarette in bed, the killer shows up standing in the doorway. She is murdered in such a way that calls back to the sexually suggestive kills found in Blood and Black Lace. Sam admits that this investigation and the painting are becoming an obsession for him. O is for obsession, extra points for it being the amateur sleuth, 10 points. Morosini shows up at Sam's dwelling. Over coffee, he tells Sam that another woman was murdered. When Julia walks in, Morosini swears they have met before, but Julia refutes this. I don't remember this ever coming up again later, so When Morosini asks Sam to come help him, Julia steps in and stands up for him. Sam intervenes and agrees to go with the inspector. Cut to another flashback. Sam once again tells Morosini about the struggle, but insists that he cannot remember anything else. Morosini finally gives him his passport back and asks him what his plans are. Sam mentions that he will stay and investigate further. He says that he has been followed and that he'd like to speak with the pimp of the second girl who was murdered. Earlier it was mentioned that he was arrested, but released when his alibi was found to be ironclad. Morosini is seen on TV giving a report on the investigation. T is for telephone, extra points for the killer making a call, 10 points. The killer calls up Morosini and begins harassing him. Someone is taunting the police by phone, 5 points. They record the call, but the killer hangs up rather quickly. The next scene is Sam with Monica and Alberto, as Alberto tells him about the plans for the new art installation which will replace all of the current statues and pieces. Alberto leaves to attend to business, and while he is gone, Monica thanks Sam for saving her, but she is cut off by Alberto, who asks her to come with him. Alberto gives Sam a look, then he and his wife depart. Sam is now interrogating the pimp, who, I guess, is still in jail? The pimp says he was framed for aiding and abetting prostitution, but claims he is innocent. He adds that he believes the real culprit is some gentleman, as they are typically the ones responsible for exploiting women. Sam and Julia are out walking while being tailed by a cop as protection. Suddenly, a car comes in and runs down the cop, presumably killing him. Reckless driving, 5 points. A man in a yellow jacket gets out of the car, equips a suppressor to a pistol, and gives chase. Now we can add foot chase, 5 points. Sam hides Julia, saying it is him they are after. He tells her when it is safe to go and call Morosini. The hitman chases Sam. He shoots. Bang! We get some cat and mouse. Bang! E is for eyeballs. 5 points. Bang! Sam gets away momentarily. Bang! Sam finds a bunch of people and warns that a gunman is after him, but when the hitman rounds the corner, he hides his gun and walks up the street. Sam turns the tables and now follows him. Sam watches as the hitman goes into a building. He follows the hitman inside and asks this person here,
Excuse me, have you seen a man with a yellow jacket and blue cap?
He was not wearing a cap of any color at any time. I don't know, perhaps this is a Mandela effect. Whatever, the person says yes and points Sam in the direction. But when he goes in, he finds an entire room filled with men wearing the same yellow jacket and blue caps like the one he predicted. He walks through, but cannot find the hitman. Meeting with Morosini, we learn the cop was killed by the car. Morosini says he wants all the men at the gathering to be tracked down and 2 of his best cops to follow and protect Sam and Julia at all times. He then apologizes for everything and tells Sam that he should go back home to the States, but Sam thinks he truly is close, and the killer must be thinking the same thing. The police are conducting a checkpoint as this young woman named Tina is dropped off home by her boyfriend, or gentleman caller, or her John, I honestly do not know. Tina gives up waiting for the elevator and walks upstairs. You might know me by now. I don't consider tiered stairs like this as spiral stairs, so I will not count this. The floor above her suddenly goes dark. Tina is compelled to walk through the darkness using a lighter to light her way. Ha! You see what I did there? Once she spies the elevator, she extinguishes the flame and proceeds to the portal, but she is ambushed before she can enter. The killer forces her inside, then attacks her with a razor blade. The killer's identity is hidden due to the framing, 2 points. Back with the alleged pimp, Sam is told to find a man named Faina, but not to tell the police. Cut to Faina showing up at Sam's. He tells Sam that he doesn't know anybody or anything, then asks what Sam wants to know. Sam tries to tell about the hitman and how he would like to find him. He asks Sam for his payment, counts it, then leaves, saying that Sam will hear from him probably by tomorrow. Sam gets a call from the killer. He signals to Julia, who records the phone call. As the killer threatens him to give up his investigation, a strange sound can be heard in the background. The killer then comments on Giulia being very beautiful and for Sam to quit and return to America or she will die next. Audio recording device, 5 points. The police are listening to the recording and Morosini says for that strange sound to be investigated. Sam and Giulia are pondering the painting in connection with the first murder when Faina calls back. He says he couldn't find anything but gives Sam the name of one of the men, Needles, and the address of where Sam can find him. Sam arrives at the address at nightfall. He goes in and peruses about. While searching, a limp arm falls, but Sam doesn't notice this. He finds a syringe filled with some reddish liquid. Surprise, the hitman is dead. Sam finally notices the corpse and flees. Another forensic specialist shows Morosini and Sam playback of the 2 different phone calls they received from the killer. We find out that the 2 calls are from 2 different people. Morosini adds that beyond 2 killers, it could still be 1 killer and an accomplice. As for that strange sound, it does not match with anything yet. Not industrial sounds or machinery or mundane and pedestrian sounds. Sam mentions to Morosini that he is, in fact, returning to America in 2 days. At home, Sam tells Carlo that he has been inspired and is writing once again. After Carlo asks about his investigation and whether there are any leads, Sam plays him the recording of the phone call. Carlo doesn't know how, but believes that sound reminds him of something else. Then, in the same fucking scene, Sam puts the moves on Giulia, and the 2 seem like they are moments away from having sex, with Carlo still right there. He asks if he can take the recording, is given the green light, then takes it and leaves. Sam suddenly has an idea, and knowing that he has 8 hours before their flight, calls up the antique dealer and asks him who the artist responsible for the painting is. Berto Consalvi is his name. Sam asks where he can find him and learns he lives in a town an hour and a half away. Sam tells Giulia he will return in 4 or 5 hours. He gets dropped off outside the house with the laughing windows, and the driver warns him that the man living here is crazy and unpredictable. The driver lastly informs him that the windows and doors are all blocked up and that he won't find a way in. Sam calls out to Berto, who responds by asking him what he wants. And when Sam says that he wants to buy a painting, a ladder up is slid out the window. Sam asks him what the inspiration behind the painting was, to which Berto says there was a real attempted murder 10 years prior. A girl Berto knew was nearly butchered by a maniac, but the attempted murderer was intercepted and the man was sent to an asylum. The remainder of the scene is basically a joke setup and payoff. Berto invites Sam to share his meal, which he does. Then Berto goes to get a painting which he believes Sam will want to buy, but a cat gets out, which he catches, and puts it back in a cage with other cats. Sam asks him why he keeps cats locked up. Berto says so they get fatter. Sam asks what for. Berto says because he eats them. Sam says he's never eaten cat before, then realizes he just ate a cat, and departs in disgust. Not entirely necessary, but kind of glad they left it in. Sam calls Giulia and says he's on his way back, to which she tells him that Carlo called and said for Sam to call him back ASAP. We see the killer is stalking outside the home where Giulia is. They stalk through and find a way inside. Giulia, hearing something and thinking Sam is downstairs, goes to meet him, but she finds the killer coming round. Giulia locks up and tries to call the police, but the killer cuts the line. They then start banging on the door and threatening Giulia. As she tries to escape from the window, the killer cuts the power. Giulia cannot get out and blocks the door with a cabinet, then tries the bathroom window, but collapses at the sight of bars. The killer begins hammering a hole into the door. Giulia equips herself with scissors, and once she sees the killer spy her through the hole in the door, she attempts to stab them through the hole, but to no avail. The killer flees at the sound of Sam just as Giulia passes out. She awakens, and Sam tells her the killer must have fled out the cellar and that she slept through the night. Carlo shows up and tells Sam he has found the source of the strange sound. It is an exotic bird with long white feathers that looks like glass. But the bird only lives in northern Siberia. Odd clue, 5 points. Carlo tells Sam that despite the bird only surviving in its native region, there is one in Italy that has been carefully kept alive at the local zoo. At the zoo, they find the strange bird and hear its call for themselves. Behind the bird, Sam notices the window of Alberto and Monica's apartment. Sam says it must be Alberto Rainieri, which he confirms by proclaiming the telephone he'd seen inside their place was near to the window. They run upstairs. Again, not a spiral staircase. They barge in and find Alberto and Monica fighting over a knife. Guns drawn, they tell Alberto to release his wife. A brief standoff. Alberto stabs at an advancing officer, then is tackled, but falls out the window. Sam and Morosini grab him and try to save him, but they drop him and he falls 6 stories down to his death. Someone dies by falling to their death, 15 points. Before he passes, Alberto confesses to the murders and asks that his wife be taken care of. His body is carted off. Sam asks where Julia is, then goes to find her. C is for children, 5 points. He keeps looking. Italian locales, Rome, 3 points. And he keeps looking. He is told she went inside this building, so he goes in. The lights go out. I'll be a little generous and say close-up of someone creeping through an ajar door, 5 points. Inside the room, hidden in darkness, Sam wanders in but doesn't notice Julia bound and gagged on the floor. He opens the window, then discovers the original painting, the one which was bought from the antique shop. He then finds Carlo facing him in a chair with a crazed look, wielding a knife. Sam demands to know where Julia is, but when he pulls at Carlo, he falls onto Sam, dead, with a knife in his back. A woman's cackling is heard from the shadows. The killer emerges into the light. It is Monica Ranieri. Sam finally puts everything together. He realizes that the night of the gallery, Monica was the one holding the knife and she was trying to kill her husband. Witness misremembers something, 7 points. Monica slips out the door and locks him inside, but Sam pursues her by jumping out the window. Sam follows Monica inside the next building. He searches blindly until BAM! The lights come on and Sam finds himself at the mercy of Monica, who cuts the supports of an art piece, which falls onto Sam, pinning him to the ground. She begins toying with him by stabbing at the floor near his head. She holds the knife at his face. She is ready to kill him, but succumbs to a The police rescue Sam, telling him Julia had called them. R is for reporter, 5 points. We are told that Alberto lost his life trying to cover up for his wife and her insane killing spree. Let's pause and add up L is for lies, for Alberto lying to Morosini about Monica on the night of the gallery, and extra points for the killer lying, which is a tad of a stretch, but he's an accomplice, so it's all the same to me. 10 points. S is for secrets, extra points for the killer having an impossible to predict motivation, 10 points. Someone else is believed to be the killer, 5 points. The accomplice is killed, 5 points. And hidden identity of the killer until the final moments, 5 points. We are told that Monica was the woman who was violently attacked 10 years ago, aka the woman in the painting. And her seeing the painting caused an intense reaction in her where she strangely identified not with the victim, i.e. herself, but with the assailant, her attacker. This caused her to go on a crazed killing spree in which her husband was desperately protecting her by trying to remove suspicion away. Airplane scene, extra points for a character being seen inside, 5 points. Even crazier, we are told that Alberto had taken on a form of induced psychosis due to his wife's paranoia and had become homicidally psychotic as well. Well shit, if we're considering him a killer too, let's add the killer dies accidentally by falling, 10 points. And the killer is killed by someone, 10 points. I mean, he was tackled out the window, so it wasn't entirely accidental. Sam sits next to Julia aboard the flight on their way back to America, and the film ends. And that's The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I love this film. If someone who hasn't seen a giallo film asks me what to watch, this is the one I usually tell them to watch. Hopefully any person sees at least 3 gialli, with another one being deep red. I don't care what the third one is necessarily. I don't recommend that the first one though be deep red because myself and numerous other people believe nothing will top it if you see that one first. This film, though, in many ways could be said to be the better of the 2 films. I know many people who do think so. I personally prefer Deep Red, but that's me. This film is solid. The acting, the directing, the writing, the music, the editing. I will say that this is easily in the top 3 or top 5 giallo films ever made, and this is perhaps Argento's best script. As his films go on, he becomes more interested in the spectacle of the mystery and the reveal, to the point that his films don't make much logical sense at all. But here, if you can accept the crazy reveal behind the killings, then you should be satisfied. The payoffs are set up properly, and there are just enough red herrings and breadcrumbs to distract you away from perhaps predicting the more obvious suspects. Easy to see why this film went on to be a success, and why it would inspire copycats to cement this film as the prototype for a new cinematic genre. I would love it for this film to land in the top 3 in the GialliTally, but alas, I fear the lack of nudity might prevent it from attaining such a high rank. Well, let's segue to the GialliTally cliches for this movie. Post-Giallo viewing cliches. The reason for the killings. Either psychological trauma or psychopathy. Both are worth the same, so 7 points. The reason for the investigation. There are several to choose from, but the one worth the most, which was established, is that Sam is obsessed. 10 points. He is also an amateur sleuth, so add another 5 points. Bonus points. The style bonus. This movie is stylish in a way more subdued way. There are zooms, crash zooms, fades, focus racks, freezing during the flashbacks, and numerous POVs, but we don't have a lot of usage of colored lights, like at all, and Argento doesn't overdo the zooms. I didn't count any extra point usage for the zooms, in fact. I will say that despite not having an abundance of the more flashy, stylistic elements, I will still give this film 19 points out of a possible 25 for its style bonus. I mean, the film inspired copycats. It's doing something right stylistically. Soundtrack. Indeed, 15 points. Bad effects? No bad effects, no points. Final look, extra points. The Deadpool tallying how many kills and deaths are featured in the film. I break it down as thus: 10 points per kill or death scene for the main Deadpool, plus any stylistic kill multipliers, which we didn't add yet, plus the knife kill bonus. We have the fourth victim. We don't see the death blow with certainty, but it was from a knife, so add the knife kill bonus for a total of 15 points. The cop, vehicular, so add 9, 19 points. Tina, throat slit, so add 7, 17 points. Needles, we cannot tell for certainty how he was killed or with what weapon, 10 points. Alberto Rainieri, 10 points. Carlo, I'll say impaled for the knife in the back, so add 6 and 5 for the knife kill bonus, 21 points. Extended Deadpool for those other deaths mentioned but not seen. I'll give 3 points for each. The first victim, the salesgirl, 3 points. The second victim, the prostitute, 3 points. And the third victim, the student, we actually see her throat slit, so add 7, 10 points. Red herrings for the total number of legitimate suspects in the film. 5 points per legit suspect are awarded. I won't overdo this one, but I think we can safely say Alberto Rainieri, 5 points, Monica Rainieri, 5 points, Carlo, 5 points, and Needles, 5 points. Actually, not too many red herrings. Flashback sequences, 5 points each. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6, for a total of 30 points for flashbacks. Like I already said, they clip in numerous flashbacks in a single sequence, but the flashbacks are all the same. In other movies I've tallied, I've had flashback sequences showing a plethora of entirely different moments scattered from throughout the movie. So, in case you're wondering, that's why I didn't add more. Nudity. I award 5 points for ass, 7 for breasts, and 10 for genitalia. There's none. Ladies and gentlemen, for The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, I awarded the film an A to Z score of 18 out of 26. With the bonus points for these, we have a modified score total of 145 points. And for the full GialliTally score, I award The Bird with the Crystal Plumage a GialliTally score of 561 points. God damn. Compared to Perversion Story with 571 points, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage is in second with 561, and Double Face is in third with 539 points. Okay, so I predicted that the movie would end up getting around 450 points, so I'm pleasantly surprised to see The Bird with the Crystal Plumage jump into the top 3 and grab second place. You know, if only the movie did a few more things which were more common in these movies I've already reviewed, or just showed a few boobies. Whatever, like I've stated before, these points don't actually mean a movie is better or worse. Don't forget the audience submissions. Seriously, for these film reviews, I will be accepting memes you, the viewer, submit to me, created from either still shots or GIFs from the movie with some accompanying text. The best ones I will feature in the follow-up videos while giving you a shout out for your submission. This is not a contest, just do it. It's good. Your contribution will go up. I will also separately be accepting the best still shots from the film, inspired by the idea of every frame being a painting. This portion will be called Giallo Shots. Submit any of your memes or best film frames for The Bird with the Crystal Plumage or any of the previous films to me at icaruscrispy@gmail.com. Please like this video, share it with your friends if they are horror fans or cinephiles, subscribe to The King in Giallo if you haven't yet, and if you have any questions, thoughts, curiosities, or concerns, leave those below in the comments section and I will get back to you. Give The King in Giallo a follow on Instagram and a like on Facebook. Next time on The King in Giallo, I will finally be breaking into the 1970s. There will be a 1960s recap and best of video. There will be a Forgotten Giallo Films episode for 1970 Part 1. And then the first overview, review, and GialliTally Giallo will be one of my favorites, Mario Bava's 5 Dolls for an August Moon. But hey y'all, I've worked out a mock schedule for the entire year, and it is significantly more films I will be having to do deep dives of and less of the Forgotten Giallo film movies in that series, which does mean I will need to be working way more as the deep dive videos take a lot of dedication to complete. I will be covering Gialli for easily 3 years, if not more. Plus, I want to talk about other films, so I want to say to you all now that while I still work on getting more subscribers for the channel and putting out content regularly, I might be slower with putting out content as regularly as I have been. It has been very challenging and stressful to keep up with my own schedules for The King in Giallo, and heading into 2024, I want to be able to focus on more YouTube channels. I honestly don't anticipate much crossover between The King in Giallo fans with my other endeavors for the new year, unless you're a fan of Greek mythology with breakdowns and dramatic readings of the original classic Greek plays by Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, and Aristophanes, or you're a fan of world building and explorations into that project that I've worked on for almost 2 decades. I promise I will still churn out videos at least once every 2 weeks. If not, I'll still try for weekly. I'm still hoping to build up this channel, and if you want to support me directly, join me on Patreon. I will be posting in there as soon as content is completed versus for YouTube where I have dedicated posting days and times. So Patreon will be the best place to see my new content before it drops, plus exclusive content only found there. In 2024, moving forward, I hope to be more involved with Patreon and my patrons. Thank you very much for your continued support. This has been an amazing year, and I am so thankful to have found such a great following of supportive folks like yourselves. You seriously have no idea how happy this makes me. Well, in conclusion, this is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time in the new year.
Sam Dalmas, great hope of American literature, now writing manuals on the preservation of rare birds.
It was said that she preferred women. Oh, I couldn't care less.
Of course not.
I'm no racist, for heaven's sake.
No, keep it.